blank page or the blank canvas is about the most exciting thing I think there is. The blank page has a magic, has a power about it that's enormous. I mean, that's all any artist really needs in the way of inspiration, I think. The inside of my head is a bit like a tumble dryer. There's all kinds of ideas and things sort of tumbling around in there. And sometimes, you know, they come together and make sense, and sometimes they don't. If you had to wait for inspiration, you know, there'd be days when you didn't get anything done, you know, and I like to have something done every day. Otherwise, I'd be feeling very bad about things. So don't wait for inspiration, just do it. I was drawing since before I could really remember. It's something I was always good at, and I think you tend to always sort of gravitate to whatever you're good at. If you're good at sport or something, you tend to do more of it than anyone else. And when I won a scholarship to art school, I did an awful lot more, and since I was about 13 years old, I'd done it all day, every day, just about. One day I had ideas for a picture, and it just occurred to me that they could probably be better expressed in words than they could in pictures, or more economically in words than pictures, because this particular world of the mirrorscape and of Vlam, the city of Vlam and the land of Nem where Mel lives, they're quite vast, and it would take an awful lot of paintings to be able to do them, or to be able to do them justice. So in that respect, it was a more economical way of getting this whole land down and this whole series of adventures down on paper. All of the characters, including the nasty ones, are bits of me, and I think you just have to sort of admit that there are bits of you which are not quite as nice as other bits. But I think if there's a little bit more of me in any of the characters, there's probably a little bit more of me in Mel than the others, because we had a similar start to our artistic careers. I mean, I went to study art when I was 13 years old. Not that my introduction into art was anywhere near as exciting as Mel's is, but I did go from being the very best boy in the whole school at drawing. I won the scholarship, and suddenly I was the worst boy in the whole school. So there was an awful lot of growing up to do very quickly. And that's certainly in Mirrorscape, when Mel goes to become an apprentice in Vlam with Ambrosius Blank. All of the attitudes that he brought with him from Cop, his home village, are no longer any good, and he has to learn everything anew. This is an experimental picture. It's one of the scenes in Mirrorscape towards the end where Ambrosius Blank and Mel and Ludo and Ren, his friends, are journeying back to Vlam through the Mirrorscape, and they're going through this desert which is populated by these giant sandstone heads. And you find out all sorts of things when you make a picture that you can't imagine, really. Like, you have to find out physically how the heads are in relation to one another, and how they sort of sit on the sand, and how they're lit, and what the sky is like. A whole lot of information which is probably just expressed in a few words in the story, but has to be imagined properly before you can actually write about it. And I find that about the city of Vlam. I made a drawing which we're actually reproducing in the book of the city of Vlam. And it wasn't until I drew the three main buildings, the House of Spirits, the House of Thrones, and the House of Mysteries, that I realized how steep the streets around Vlam were, and that practically everywhere you go in the city is on a hill. And until I'd actually drawn that, I hadn't realized it. So at that point, I went back and I just adjusted some of the story just to reflect the fact that the city of Lam is very hilly. The Ultimate Alphabet really changed my life because that just sold a huge amount of copies and just supplied me really with the wherewithal to be able to break away and say, you know, this is what I'm going to do in my life. This is the letter P from the Ultimate Alphabet, which was used on the front cover of the book. And I just wanted to show it to you to give you an idea of the kind of complexity that goes into paintings and, I hope, into a book like Mirrorscape. Like, for instance, in this painting, there's over 800 things beginning with the letter P. A painter with a plaid shirt and a purple pullover and pinstripe pants, wearing plimsolls, with a puppet, who's Mr. Punch, and a paintbrush, painting a panda in perspective, a parrot perching on top. All of the paintings on the wall are full of animals, pigs and plough horses and pinchers and partridges and things like that. It is meant to be playful, but it's also meant to draw you in, to make you appreciate that there's a lot more to pictures than just the paint on the canvas. I tend to work every day, so it's a pretty monotonous existence while the book's being done. After the book's finished, you know, then things change. There's an old saying in the artistic world that you start off wanting something to be a masterpiece and you end up just wanting it to be finished, because you spend, I mean, some of my pictures take years to paint, some of my books have taken years to write. Mirrorscape, for instance, took me probably over a year to write. At the end of that time, you're just wondering whether you can go on anymore. It's a great relief when it's finished. But once your editor's seen it and come back and said, well, you know, questioned a few things about it, then you want to get stuck back in it again. Once I start writing, I don't like to stop, and the word processor can take care of all of the boring bits like spelling, and then I can decide if something's in the right order later on and not sort of commit myself until I hit the save button. My editor's brilliant, but she's also a pain because she'll take me to task about absolutely everything I write. I can't get anything past her. She'll pick up on the slightest thing to make sure that the plot is right, the characters are right, the characters are consistent, that they're talking in their own voices and not my voice, that the scene there's continuity from one scene to the next scene, absolutely everything like that. And in fact, with Mirrorscape, there was a huge section which appeared throughout the book, which was in fact a subplot, and that vanished because it wasn't lending anything to the story. It didn't matter that I'd spent months writing it or that there was sort of extra characters in there. It just had to go because it wasn't contributing to the story. This is what a book looks like when it goes off to your editor, to your publisher. It's just a huge, huge wad of paper. And it's going to be covered, come back to you, covered in writing, some of which you'll agree with, some of which you won't agree with. But as you can probably see on this page, just about everything I've written has been queried, and it's got a comment against it. 500 odd pages like that with something to look at and to address on just about every page throughout the book. And of course, if you take out a character from the beginning of the book, you've just got to make sure that he or she are not there at the end of the book. Well, this is my library, which is the other part of my study where I write. And as you can see, I've got hundreds, probably thousands of books. And you'll find that there's all kinds of people in here. There's Owen Colfer, Terry Pratchett, and lots of other people besides. But perhaps one of my biggest influences, or I wouldn't say influences, I'd say one of the people I most admire would be somebody like Philip Pullman. I've got some of his books up here. Now, I'm sure a lot of people would have read his Dark Materials, and they're books which I've read several times. and I go back and I find something new in them every time. And he's a brilliant writer, someone I admire very much. And they just kind of fire me up. They just have sort of very clear imaginations and very, very good descriptive powers, and I find that's very, very inspirational. But I think I've just got so many ideas in here fighting for space that I don't really need to look anywhere else. And if I could ever get out half the ideas that are inside my head, then it's going to keep me busy for at least a lifetime.